Hi everybody, welcome to our Wednesday TNT as we check out some of the main stories around Thailand and a few around the region. Now I'm going to be doing a bit of an election sort of wrap up in the middle of the program today. Don't worry, we're not going to be going heavily into politics, although the Thai election is a pretty big news story, the first general election since 2019. But we'll start today's program with a bit of a wrap up of, sort of a update on other news which is around. By the way, if you've got an opportunity to subscribe to the channel, that would be much appreciated. Let's go to our first story. This from Thai Newsroom, and the story, the headline says that a man held for killing mixed-race youth over drug deal. Now, yesterday in our comments section, most of the commentary about the murder of this teenager was over the kid's nationality, not about the actual crime or anything, and people were just in some sort of angst about whether he was British or Thai or mixed race or whatever. Just to clarify, he has a British passport, his father was British and his mother is Thai. That's about all I can tell you. And a man who was arrested in the murder of a half-Thai British youth in Lampang province last Sunday confessed after lengthy interrogation that he did commit the crime after being double-crossed in a drug deal. Now, we should say at this stage his comments and his allegations have not been tested in court, but this is what he told police yesterday. A bit further down, the deceased youth's girlfriend, only identified as Ms. Pong, 16, had disappeared with her fate unknown. More about her in just a moment. The suspect told police that the youth and his girlfriend were drug runners and he'd arranged to pick up some drugs at the Grove, but upon getting there he found that the youth had lied to him about where it was hidden, and being certain that he'd kept it for himself, he got very angry, beat him with a stick until he died there. And then this Thai Newsroom story goes on to say that the Malaysian police had rushed to investigate this murder and found the suspect's motorcycle, which had been parked at a relative's cowshed at around 9 p.m. on Saturday, accompanied with a young girl who is likely Pong. Now, the story goes on to talk about the young 16-year-old girl here, and it does get a bit confusing, but we'll read the story anyway. Malaysian police had rushed to investigate the murder and found the suspect's motorcycle, which had been parked at a relative's cowshed at around 9 p.m. on Saturday, accompanied with a young girl who is likely Pong. He told his relative he was leaving his motorcycle overnight to go and rent a house for his minor wife and rode off on another one. This minor wife, we're not sure if that's referring to Pong or not. He returned on Sunday, parked the motorbike he'd used behind the shed and disappeared. This morning, police seized this motorbike. While police are searching for Pong, they think she's safe. The police added that the suspect had previously committed 2 sex crimes and was only released from prison 8 months ago. So, obviously all a bit darker than we may have first thought, but I'm sure there'll be more stories today in Thai media. They'll be translated into the English-speaking media, and we'll slowly, I suppose, start to unravel what may have happened to the 16-year-old. Moving on to another story today, and Thailand sees more than 400,000 foreign tourists in the first week of May. And the story reported by the patianews.com. And the story says that Thailand saw nearly 447,000 foreign tourists in the first week of May 2023, a slight decline due to the end of the long holiday in many regions. Imagine that they're talking about Songkran Festival there, which ran from sort of the 10th to the 17th of April. And the office estimated there'd be at least 2 million tourists visiting the country in May, mainly from ASEAN countries, East Asia and Southeast Asia. I sort of would have thought Southeast Asia and ASEAN countries was much the same thing. It says the top 5 countries in terms of the number of tourists were Malaysia, China, India, Laos and South Korea. Now, I think we have to assume that most of the people coming out of Laos are coming over the border for some quick trading or a very short visit. I'm not really sure whether they'd be sort of considered tourists in the conventional definition. And then it says that tourists from Malaysia, China, South Korea and India decreased by, quite large amounts. And then it says the office said Thailand has welcomed just over 9 million foreign tourists so far since January 2023. So the countries referred to in this article, and quoting the tourism ministry, seem to be quite different from the arrival figures I see from Suvarnabhumi Airport and Phuket Airport, for example. No mention of Russians, for example, which are still the highest number of tourists arriving in the last couple of weeks anyway at the Phuket International Airport. Anyway, that's what they published and that's what we read, and we'll try and give you some more clarification about those numbers if I can dig them out today. Now, another story that's been making a lot of headlines, let's find out the latest on that. And ASEAN Now reporting the criminal court issues arrest warrant for Am in connection to 15 cases as Big Joke unveils multi-million baht financial probe. So this, of course, referring to the Am Cyanide case, the suspect Sararat, who now has some 15 cases nailed on her for trial. And just again reminding us in the headline that the Deputy Commissioner, his nickname is Big Joke. Don't know how long we're going to keep on dragging that one out. During the press conference, Surarat Hakpan, the Deputy Commissioner, revealed that an arrest warrant had been issued for Am in connection to 15 cases, including 14 murder cases and one attempted murder case dating back to 2015. The authorities have been able to trace a financial trail that led to an account valued at 78 million baht, which was subsequently transferred to 11 to 12 other individuals. And then the Deputy Commissioner also disclosed that the authorities are widening their investigation to include all those potentially involved in the case, although he did not provide specific details. He mentioned that the authorities would not hesitate to seek an arrest warrant if necessary. So the Deputy Commissioner updating the Thai media yesterday on the latest in that case, and I'm sure we will hear more. But another thing I noticed on this ASEAN Now report, and I've circled it there, it says in this final paragraph, in conclusion, a big red flag that article's been rewritten by Chat GPT. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think any media who do get their articles rewritten by AI need to declare the fact. And often if you get Chat GPT to rewrite an article, it'll finish with in summary or in conclusion. And it's really the editor's job there to go and sort of clean those artifacts up. But if you just leave it as it is, we're going to know that Chat GPT did in fact rewrite that article. And another red flag is the emphasised there spelt with a Z. That's the American spelling. ASEAN Now uses Oxford English spelling, usually, and ChatGPT always writes in American spelling unless you ask it specifically to spell in Oxford English. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So again, the editors just let that one slip by. Now, we should thank 5 Star Marine, our sponsors of the program, and as I mentioned yesterday, in a few days we'll actually have an opportunity for you to get a discount. There'll be a link in the description specifically so you can get a discount when making a booking if you're heading to Phuket and want to go and check the islands off the main island of Phuket. Wednesday's TNT, a bit of an update now on what's happening with the election, the main vote happening this Sunday. And remember that there will be an alcohol ban from 6 p.m. this Saturday night until 6 p.m. on Sunday night. So you can whip down to your favourite convenience store before and just grab a few bottles if you want to have a drink on Sunday. Now we'll start with this report from the Bangkok Post. Wisanu, Thaksin must serve prison time, not house arrest. Now this refers to Thaksin Shinawatra, who's the grandfather of one of the prime ministerial candidates for the Per Thai party, Pathongtan Shinawatra. She's just had a baby, and Thaksin would like to come back as the grandfather and spend some time. But he's got a few legal hurdles, let's say, if he wants to come back to Thailand. And interestingly, Wisanu Kriyanam, who's said this, used to serve as one of the ministers with Thaksin Shinawatra back in 2000. Story goes on saying the former Prime Minister, Thaksin Shinawatra, must serve his sentence in prison, not under house arrest, if he returns home, according to the caretaker Deputy Prime Minister, Wisanu Kriyanam. Mr. Wisanu, the Cabinet's legal expert, was responding to Thaksin's latest tweets, saying he wanted to return home before July 26th, his 74th birthday, to care for his grandchildren and would enter the legal process. I think Thaksin's idea of a legal process is a bit different from Wisanu's. And the story goes on, when asked whether the former Prime Minister could apply for release on bail in cases where a court had already sentenced him to prison, Mr Wasanu, bit of a spelling mistake there, stressed his belief that Thaksin must be imprisoned as if he'd been in court to hear the ruling. Asked about a royal pardon, Mr Wisanu said there were two types of royal pardons, those sought by authorities for convicts and those sought by individual prisoners seeking a reduction in their sentence. To seek a royal pardon through a royal decree, individual prisoners must serve at least 8 years or 1/3 of their jail term. Now, I have to say when it comes to royal pardons that if the head of state of Thailand wanted to pardon anybody, then basically that's the matter over. We should also just mention that there was a strong connection, a good friendship between the then Crown Prince and the then Prime Minister of Thailand back in the early 2000s. I'll just leave that there. And Thaksin was ousted from office by a 2006 military coup and is living in self-exile after being sentenced in absentia for abuse of power, a charge he always insisted was politically motivated. He remains very popular with his many followers. So that's a wait and see story. On to our quick election wrap-up part 2. Also in the Bangkok Post, poll body sees voter turnout at above 80%. The Election Commission expects voter turnout will top 80% for this Sunday's general election as it ramps up its campaign to raise awareness of the poll. And a bit further down, referring to Bangkok, City Hall reported that voter turnout for last Sunday's advanced voting in Bangkok was nearly 92%, above the 87% seen during the same stage of the March 2019 poll. And referring to dud ballots, or ballots made incorrectly, the Election Commission is working to make sure they don't exceed 2% of all ballots cast this Sunday. It says the blunders encountered during advanced voting last weekend would not render the election being declared null and void, and the Election Commission do take those matters very seriously, and they appear to investigate them all one by one. And we go to our poll coverage number 3, this from nationthailand.com. Prayut stays silent on possibility of minority government. And the outgoing Prime Minister, first time I've seen him referred to as the outgoing Prime Minister, he's currently the caretaker Prime Minister officially. He refused to comment on the possibility of a minority government after Sunday's general election, saying he'd wait for the results before negotiating with other parties. And the PM candidate for the United Thai Nation Party said he would choose what is best for the nation when the next government is formed. The issue of a minority government became a hot topic after the Deputy PM Wisanu Kriyanam last week said that the election could result in a government that does not command the most seats in the House of Representatives. So you can imagine the phones running hot, particularly after the past 2 or 3 months when the incumbents have polled very, very badly indeed and really have no chance in the forthcoming election of forming what you would consider a government. 50% of the MPs plus one. So the discussion of a minority government comes up, and I think it would be a very fragile situation indeed. The leader of the opposition Move Forward party said a minority government would be like hell on earth, and the deputy leader of the Democrats said such a government would be unworkable but also unlikely. And public opinion surveys in the run-up to the election show Move Forward and fellow opposition party Pheu Thai hold a commanding lead. Sometimes if you put their percentages together it gets above 65%. The Conservative camp led by the military-backed Palang Pracharat and UTN are trailing but can count on the support of the 250 junta-appointed senators. So the senators will play an important role in the formation of the next government, certainly in the election of the next Prime Minister. But if we get any of the incumbents trying to hold on to government by forming a minority government, the first thing that will happen is it will be tested and there'll be a vote of confidence, and the minority government would lose that vote of confidence. And that's assuming that the head of state, which has to be asked whether he'll approve a minority government, would even allow it. And I imagine he would only allow it, saying, well, you have to test it in the parliament first. So it could only last a couple of weeks if that. And number 4 in our quick election coverage, this from nationthailand.com. Thailand will not be caught between two cyclones on election day, says Minister. The Thai Meteorological Department has dismissed rumours doing the rounds on social media that the country will be hit by two cyclones on Sunday, the day of the general election. They even went so far as to get their Digital Economy and Society Minister and the department's weather forecast to face the media to clarify matters. And rumours of two cyclones, one from the Bay of Bengal on the west and another from the South China Sea in the east, making landfall in Thailand at the same time, have been doing the rounds on social media. Rumours claim the two cyclones have been forming over the two seas since Monday. People who really can't read synoptic charts are coming up with this rubbish. And further down they say no cyclone will make landfall in Thailand on Sunday, but they said many parts of the country may experience heavy rain on Sunday due to the influence of Cyclone Mocha forming over the Bay of Bengal. That's a really cool name, Cyclone Mocha. So somehow these reports on social media have seeped into the main media and even to other departments, which ended up with the Marine Department in Phuket saying that small boats shouldn't go out to sea over the next 3 or 4 days. But Phuket Go, Phuket-go.com picked that one up. Marine Office issues warning for Phuket boats, but the forecast looks good. In response to an imminent weather warning from the Thai Meteorological Department, the Phuket Marine Office has issued a cautionary notice for boat captains, warning small boats of less than 13 metres not to go to sea. And further down, the Phuket Marine Office chief emphasised the importance of safety during this period, urging boat captains to exercise caution when travelling in the sea. But Phuket-Go says we checked our forecast, which we used to base our daily Phuket weather forecast. The forecasting model we use doesn't predict any of the poor weather as predicted by the TMD or Phuket Marine Office. So just to finalise this, let's go to the synoptic chart this morning, and the red arrow there pointing to Thailand. And if we go to the right, we can see a low pressure system, but nothing which would resemble a cyclone as such. And that's apparently heading westward. And then in the Bay of Bengal, I don't really see any signs of this low pressure system or cyclone as reported by any of the local forecasters. So storm in a teacup, I'd say, and I think voters on Sunday won't have to worry about two cyclones converging in Thailand and disrupting their voting. The TNT program on a Wednesday. If you get the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. We go to the Straits Times now, and Malaysia to impose total ban on plastic bags by 2025. So Thailand tried this back a few years ago to ban single-use plastic bags, and a lot of the shopping centres trumpeted loudly that they're banning plastic bags. But they're all back again. If you go to the convenience stores, even if you want to buy a banana, which is already wrapped in plastic bag, they'll then offer you a plastic bag to put that plastic bag wrapped banana in. So it's all back to normal here in Thailand. But this story says the Malaysian government aims to ban the use of plastic bags for retail purposes across all business sectors nationwide by 2025. And the No Plastic Bags campaign's been carried out in stages, starting with fixed business locations like supermarkets and certain shops. And the initiative, led by various state governments, was a long-term plan to address pollution caused by single-use plastic in Malaysia. And the last paragraph there, according to the minister, the ban currently applies only to physical establishments like supermarkets, mini-markets and sundry shops, but it will soon be extended to roadside stalls as well. And plastic waste management, a significant issue, with Malaysia being one of the top 10 nations worldwide facing the issue. And the minister said Malaysia used 140,000 metric tonnes of plastic for food packaging alone in 2020. So Malaysia, trying to do the right thing with their single-use plastic bags. Let's hope they have a bit more success than they did in Thailand, where that's completely fizzled out and we're back to normal. That's it for today's TNT. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you're a bit more up to date with things happening in Thailand. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow.